here's what's happening right now.
If any state can get this ball rolling, it's Wisconsin.
A message of unity from Madison leaders after a violent night. We've got you covered on their support for the Madison community.
We got lucky in that aspect.
Plus, business owners return to shattered windows, how they're moving forward after their stores were damaged and what was spared.
Let's rebuild this city.
And the cleanup. The volunteers out early this morning to sweep up the damage.
We've got you covered. This is 27 News at 5:30.
Our community is wounded. People are hurting. Businesses are harmed. We must work to heal.
Today, city leaders call on the people of Madison to turn the page after a night of chaos. Violence began after a peaceful protest standing against injustice and remembering the life of George Floyd. Thanks for joining us tonight. After the chaos died down and the sun came up today, city leaders called for unity to continue pushing for what's right. Mayor Sautia Rhodes Conway spoke with Common Council President Sherry Carter and Acting Police Chief Vic Wall, saying the best way to honor Floyd's life and bring lasting institutional change is to come together.
George Floyd should be alive today. We will not ever be able to say that all lives matter until Black lives matter.
This is the time. This is the moment. George Floyd has to be the last one. That violence last night brought us together today.
The mayor again called on the city to support both the Black community and small businesses. We have team coverage tonight on what's happened and what could come later tonight. We start with AJ Bayatpour, though, who talked with a group of religious leaders coming together tonight. What's their message, AJ?
You know, Jennifer, we are standing at the intersection of State and Lake, and it's very different than it looked last night after midnight, where even after the last pocket of protesters and demonstrators had dispersed, there was still a group of stragglers at this intersection face-to-face with law enforcement. They've since left, but you can see what's left behind me, broken or boarded up windows, and there is a law enforcement presence that is beginning to take form. The personnel we are seeing down here is from the Dane County Sheriff's Office. Following that violence that occurred throughout the night, following what had been an entirely peaceful afternoon protest, the images of shattered windows and fires prompted about a half dozen area churches to hold a joint service. It was this afternoon at Christ Presbyterian Church a few blocks east of Capitol Square. Well, that half dozen churches held a bilingual service. Organizers said they wanted to help. They're saddened by the pain a number of people in the community feel, they say particularly African Americans in the community. They say they want to do more, but felt by starting with prayer as a group of many different denominations.
And then we broke into small groups to just pray for ourselves, for humility, that we would have ears to hear for those who are hurting, that we would repent, and to pray for peace for our city.
Now, city officials initially told us earlier today that there was word of a march happening down here on State at 6 o'clock. However, within the last hour, we've now been told that that march has been canceled. However, we will remain in the area, keeping our eyes on State Street in case anything develops, and certainly our ears open should anything happen in other parts of the city as well. For now, reporting live at State and Lake, AJ Bayatpour, 27 News.
Okay, thank you, AJ. And both city leaders and police do have plans to keep Madison peaceful tonight. Caroline Bach continues our team coverage on the preparations and the curfew in effect tonight in Madison. Caroline?
Hi, Jennifer. Yeah, I want to paint a similar picture to what AJ did for you of where I am. I'm at the Capitol near the top of State Street, and here it just looks like a typical Sunday afternoon on State Street, people getting out, enjoying the weather. To my other side, we do have some people who are peacefully demonstrating here with signs and just making their presence known, not causing any noise, anything, just standing their ground. But this is for anyone. My next point that I need to make is there is a state of emergency in effect in Madison. And that means there is a curfew that begins tonight at 9:30 for anyone in the city, and it runs until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. The Madison police have also gotten some assistance from the National Guard to help enforce this curfew and keep the peace here. This is in response to the violence and destruction that did unfortunately happen right in this area last night. Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway said that she ordered the state of emergency and the curfew because of, again, that violence and destruction, not because of the peaceful protest that happened yesterday afternoon. Madison police also say they have extra officers on standby if need be.
I'm hopeful that people will stay home, follow the mayor's emergency order and the curfew, and that we won't see a repeat of what we saw last night, and that'll be remain as an aberration and a one-time event.
Acting Chief Wall repeated to me over and over he hoped that he does not have to use any sort of robust staffing model, that people will simply stay home, and if people choose to exercise their First Amendment right, they do so peacefully. The police and the National Guard are here to ensure safety for people who want to express their freedom of speech. Now, back out here live, we are starting to hear some people make noise and still, again, peacefully express their opinions about what happened to George Floyd. That is the main message here. But I do want to reiterate that the curfew goes into effect at 9:30. Everyone must be home in the city of Madison. We're reporting live downtown. Caroline Bach, 27 News.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. We'll continue to follow that. Now, the violence yesterday started after a large peaceful protest, she mentioned, at the state capitol after it ended, but about 150 people stuck around. Our crew was there as police walked away from the rally. Acting Chief Vic Wall said they thought it was over, but demonstrators followed officers to the city-county building. Now, that's when they started throwing rocks through the windows of the CCB, and the group tried to tip over a police car. We caught this on video. It was parked right outside. They were also throwing rocks through its windows. Now, at that time, police say the officers put on their riot gear to try to get a handle on the crowd as it moved over to State Street, and that's when the destructive violence ramped up.
So it was a remarkably challenging event for our officers to police, and I'm grateful that none were seriously injured.
Police say they did not engage with the crowd until people started breaking into Goodman's Jewelers you just saw there on State. Officers used pepper spray, trying to break up the line of people. Now, as the evening continued, more businesses became targets. People who live on State Street say it was frightening to watch.
I was definitely scared. I was scared that either someone was going to get hurt or perhaps, a weapon could go off.
Police say officers arrested 3 people throughout the night Saturday, but they say they're still working to identify some of the people who caused the damage. Now, the damage was not limited to just State Street. This was the Walgreens on Whitney Way. Last night around 1 o'clock in the morning, people smashed out the windows there and the alarms were going off. Madison police confirmed looting overnight at both East and Westtown malls. The windows were smashed in at Gruno's Diamonds at Westtown. The store's manager says nothing there was taken because they had put all merchandise in a vault, expecting looters last night. This morning, workers were cleaning up damage at the West Side Best Buy. Some of the windows of the sliding doors were smashed in there, too. Madison police say around 75 businesses across the city were damaged throughout the night. But the worst of the damage was on State Street, where crowds broke into many small businesses. Francisco Almenara spoke with some of the owners about what happened to them and where they go from here.
Jen, here on State Street, the visual is essentially the same up and down. You've got boarded up windows and closed businesses. I actually spoke with one business owner who didn't want to go on camera, who told me looters and vandals caused more than $100,000 worth of damage inside his store. But even those who did not have as extensive of damage inside say that it's a very difficult situation here on State Street.
Pull the news up and we get live footage of our window being smashed in, so it was a lot of anxiety was going on through that moment.
Akash Pradhan left Power 9 Games for the day right before chaos erupted on State Street. He says the people causing vandalism only broke one of their windows and spared the shop.
So we got lucky in that aspect. The store itself wasn't looted. Everyone in here was safe.
Across the street, Jeffrey Kopsky at Freedom Skate Shop also had his storefront broken, but no one got in.
There was a kid that I knew that was out front that watched my store for me until I got here.
He then stayed at his store until midnight, boarding up the windows with skateboards and protecting it from the looters. He knows other neighbors weren't as lucky.
Oh, I know they got hit worse. There's business owners I know right down my street that got cleared out.
He says despite the damage, he understood the need to protest and make sure what happened to George Floyd doesn't happen again.
It stinks, but, justice does need to happen and a point does need to get across. So, but yeah, at the expense of small businesses, it hurts. It hurts a lot.
Now, many of these small local businesses that I spoke to said that they had just opened up after being closed for more than 2 months because of the coronavirus pandemic. They said that if another protest does come out of the protests that have been happening this week, that they don't turn violent and destructive like the one that we saw last night, because they might not be able to financially survive it. Reporting live in downtown Madison, Francisco Almenara, 27 News.
Okay, thank you, Francisco. And throughout the day yesterday, we kept you updated on the 27 News Now app. We'll always have you covered on the latest breaking news, including on this story as things develop today, so make sure you download it. As the sun came up, the helpers came out. Hear from those cleaning up shattered businesses this morning.
And showers and storms return. I'll have your forecast in just a bit.
And we will still be keeping an eye on downtown Madison. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Take another look out at downtown Madison right now. This is that small group at the top of State Street, right next to the Capitol on the square. Staying peaceful right now, a lot different than things looked like yesterday at this time. Now, even while the violence was still going on last night, community leaders were already planning ways to help. The Boys and Girls Club of Dane County set up a downtown emergency relief fundraiser less than 24 hours ago. It's already raised more than $110,000 for businesses impacted by the incidents last night. And volunteers stepped up too this morning to clean up the streets of downtown Madison after all that damage last night. Sarah Massler-Donar introduces us to some of the many who showed up to help.
The violence and looting on State Street left dozens of businesses with damaged and lost property. But just hours after it ended, the streets began to fill again, this time with helpers, cleaning up and looking to rebuild.
Let's come together and let's clean this city. Let's rebuild this city.
Darnell Pope and Tate Groh hit the streets just after 5 a.m., jumping in wherever they thought they could be the most useful.
I mean, I can obviously understand where this anger comes from. I think for me personally, I don't like to see my city get destroyed.
Hopefully things will get better and start cleaning up here in the end, and that's what we all just hope, would like to see.
And Jasmine Holland, in the midst of scrubbing away Saturday's destruction, says she was heartbroken to see the devastation.
Watching the news last night, I cried a little bit just because it's hard to see something like this, because yes, people are frustrated and the community is upset, but some people just take out their aggression at not necessarily the right thing.
But those who live here know Madison and its people are strong.
In all, Madison police say about 75 businesses were either damaged and or looted. Reporting in Madison, Sarah Massler-Donar, 27 News.
Former Madison Mayor Paul Soglin was out during the cleanup this morning, too. He posted on Facebook today calling the violent individuals last night fascists, using a legitimate protest as a way to spark violence.
We have a chance for 90-degree temps this week and severe storms. I'll walk you through it all after this.
We have another look for you at downtown Madison. Very quiet out there right now as this group continues to send the same message they were sending yesterday at a peaceful protest. And people took a stand against racial injustice and remembered George Floyd in Rock County today, too. Carly Murata has you covered tonight on the message there and the protest that remained peaceful.
Yesterday, many people protested in Madison. Today, protesters are out here in Janesville on Milton Avenue fighting for justice after the death of George Floyd.
fighting for justice.
People of all ages.
No justice, no peace.
Promoting a peaceful protest.
There are protesters and there are violent criminals who are there to loot and cause trouble.
This is what community looks like.
The second you cross the line and become one of the second group, you are no longer a protester. You are no longer welcome.
I was not nervous about it at all until yesterday when I saw Madison and Rockford, and this is not our point at all. We are not really anti every cop in the world. We just want justice.
Equality is at the core of this Janesville family of 6, as they are made up of all different races.
We're a blended family. We have our daughter's African American, we have 2 white children, and we have our son who's Filipino. It's an important family value that we demand justice for everybody and love for everybody too, that we show that we care.
I asked my mom what I can do as a white male, and she said showing up is one of the things that you can do, and it means a lot. So I'm here right now, showing up.
I also spoke with the Janesville police officer who said their goal is to make connection with protesters and show that law enforcement are human too. He also made it clear we're all in this together. In Janesville, I'm Carly Murata, 27 News.
Now, weather with 27 Storm Track's Catherine Noel.
Here's a photo that didn't make it to air yesterday, but this was taken yesterday. Last night, sunset sent in from Scott Williams, taken on the north side of Lake Mendota. A gorgeous view. It's going to feel like summer for the 7-day forecast.
Yeah, so June's here, so I guess summer's got to be here too then.
Yeah, it's going to feel like it.
All right, thank you, Catherine. After the break, we'll check in one more time with our crews in downtown Madison. We're back now with one more check-in with downtown Madison. AJ Bayapur is still on State Street. How are things compared to yesterday at this time of day?
Jennifer, I'm at State and Lake, just across from Library Mall, and the extent of action we've seen, there's some law enforcement from the Dane County Sheriff's Office that's been milling around that area, but what we've seen is a number of presumably UW-Madison graduates in their graduation gowns taking photos. If you had no idea what happened last night, one would be led to think that this law enforcement was just security for graduation on a sun-splashed Sunday in May here in Madison. Of course, we know that's not the case, and if you can see in one of the other pictures that we're carrying from where reporter Caroline Bach is, you can see at the other end of State, down at Capitol Square, there's a peaceful protest going on where demonstrators are displaying signs, but certainly no indication of anything untoward happening later this evening. Of course, it was 24 hours ago, right around this time as the clock approached 6, that some of the groups started getting rowdy and started breaking windows, and the first acts of vandalism happened down here. Right now, at this moment, we're seeing no indication of any of that happening. Of course, we're going to stay down on State for the evening to keep an eye on what happens, keep our ear as well. Reporting live at State and Lake, AJ Bayapur, 27 News.
Okay, thank you, AJ. And as he mentioned, of course, we're going to continue following whatever goes on downtown tonight, and so we will be watching that.
Yeah, you can tell it was nice outside behind AJ, right? Sun shining, warm weather, that's what we had this weekend, but even warmer, unsettled weather that is coming. We can see that here, off and on storms, even severe chances Tuesday into Wednesday. We're going to see the sun shine some point, though. You know, Thursday, Saturday, nice days above average temps.
Okay.
And 90.
And 90.
You
Don't
can't
forget
forget
about
that.
the 90. All right, thank you for watching, and we will have you covered tonight at 10.